Chapter 21, Lefty O'Doul. How dear to my heart was the old-fashioned batter, whose scattered line drives from the spring to the fall. He did not resemble the up-to-date batter, who swings from his heels and then misses the ball. The up-to-date batter I'm not very strong for. He shatters the ozone with all of his might, and that is the reason I hanker and long for those who double to left and triple to right. The old-fashioned batter, the eagle-eyed batter, who thinking man's batter, who tripled to right. Georgie Fair. I played it for a lot of managers in my day. Miller Huggins, Frank Chance, John McGraw, Missy Rosie Stoltz. Most successful of all was Rosie Stoltz. She was our 7th grade teacher at the Bayview Grammar School, and she managed the school team. Won the grade school championship in San Francisco in 1912. We did with Miss Rosie Stoltz managing. A manager can only do so much, all that. The rest is up to the players. It's the players make the manager, or not the other way around, I managed for 24 years myself in the Pacific Coast League. In 1935, I had Joe DiMaggio in right field and won the pennant. He hit .398 and sold him to the Yankees over the winter, and the next year I finished next to last. Take Frank Chance, one of the greatest It won all those pennants with the Cubs. He was my manager on the Red Sox in 1923. Well, in 1923, we ended dead last. Just proves if you haven't got the horses, you haven't got the chance. I signed my first professional contract at San Francisco in 1917, and they farmed me out to Des Moines, Iowa, in the Western League. Des Moines in the Western League in 1917. What a life. You'd get the coal-burning train with the old wicker seats, carrying you all on uniform, wearing your own bats and everything, and ride from Des Moines, Iowa to Wichita, Kansas, all night and part of the day. The next day, if you opened the window, you'd be eating soot and cinders all night long. If you closed the window, you'd roast to death. Get off in the morning either filthy or without a wink of sleep, usually both. In the Pacific Coast League later on, I used to play Sunday morning at Stockton, grab an egg sandwich, ride 60 or 70 miles on the bus, put the wet uniform back on, and play an afternoon game in Sacramento. Play in Oakland on a Sunday morning, wolf down a bean sandwich, and rush over on the ferry boat, carrying your own equipment to play an afternoon game in San Francisco. Same clammy uniform again. That wasn't semi-pro ball. That was professional baseball. The San Francisco Seals in the Pacific Coast League. And you know what? I loved every minute of it. I was a pitcher at first. Spent 7 years at it, but never got very far. Was up with the Yankees and the Red Sox, but my arm hurt. Or they never did much. 1924, the Red Sox sold me to Salt Lake City. And the high altitude there. Cripes, you could hit the ball with the one hand and it'd fly out of the park. So I said to the manager, I am now an outfielder. You don't know how to play the outfield, he says. Well, I said, I'll learn. And you know the rest of it. I played the outfield that year and led the Coast League in hitting with .392. Hit .398 with the Phillies 5 years later, closest any man ever came to hitting .400 in the big leagues without making it. Only 8 fellows in the history of baseball ever hit .400. 11 years in the big leagues and a lifetime batting average of .349. That's lifetime average. .349, only guy has ever did better are Ty Cobb, Roger Hornsby, and Shoeless Joe Jackson. So, you might say, I have the highest batting average of any man living. Yeah, rest of the guys are dead. So that's it. Story of my life. Think we could make a movie of that? Well, maybe not. Too many things happened on the sidelines we couldn't put in right. If I had to do all over, I had be ball player again, and without the pay. Yeah, without the pay, I loved it. That's why I never squawked when I didn't get big salaries. I like to play too much. Of course, if I were playing now and they gave some kid one of those big bonuses to sign a contract, why I'd be kind of disappointed in the whole setup. I led the National League in batting in 1929 with a 398 average. Got 254 hits that season, led the record, and I got a $500 raise. That's right, $500. Was I making about $20,000 then? Are you kidding? I was lucky to get as much as 8. In 1932, I led the National League in hitting again with 368, and they cut me $1,000. That's the truth. How can they give these kids without anything and what's inside their bodies? What kind of heart they have? What kind of intestinal fortitude will give them $100,000 to sign contract? I can't understand that. Imagine if the Bank of America here would go to, say, Stanford University and give the honor student there $100,000. And tell them that same day he'll be one of the big shots in the bank. They wouldn't dare do that, would they? When a man proves himself as shown that he's a big leaguer, why I think there are the fellows that should get the dough, not some youngster who doesn't understand his way into the ball. Know his way into the ballpark yet. I can't understand it. It doesn't help morale in the ball club, I tell you what. Of course, a lot of things are different today. When I was playing it was unwritten law that if a batter ever hit the pitch when the count was 3 balls and no strikes, the next time he came up there, boy, he was knocked out down 4 consecutive times. They're always yelling about the beanball nowadays. Be better off if they forgot about it. Hell, they've got an iron helmet on their head, and haven't they? They look like steel workers. If I was pitching today, I'd see if I could skip a few off their noggins. We didn't wear an iron helmet. We wore a felt hat. I saw many a ball all coming right on my head. When I pitched for San Francisco in 1921, I hit 19 men on purpose. No way to say how many I missed. Then when I became an outfielder, the shoe was on the other foot. Shoe was on the other foot, see? They hit me in the legs, hit me in the back, broke my elbow, broke my rib. That's all right. Let the ball players fight themselves out of it. Drag the ball and spike the pitcher. Why are the general managers and the managers always hollering about beanballs? They don't have to go up there and hit, do they? What are they screaming about? The umpires going out and warning a pitcher about throwing beanballs, fining him? How does the umpire know? The ball could have slipped, couldn't it? A pitcher is a human, not a lathe, not a piece of machinery. The ball could slip, right? When I hit 398, they were knocking me down all the day long. The catchers used to say, "Well, there you go, Frank," and I'd duck. Nobody interfered. Left us alone. We worked our way out of it by ourselves. When I was playing ball in the big leagues, my bats, it could be jumping up and down in the trunk. Couldn't wait to get to the ballpark and grab the bat. But big crowd soccer triple, nothing like it. Maybe I was a ham. What's the use of doing something when nobody's looking? But a packed park, crowded, roaring. The guy throws you a great breaking curve. You hit it on the nose and drive it on the other outfielder over the outfielder's head. What a thrill! I marvel at how some of those guys used to hit the ball back when I first started. The pitchers would use dirt and tobacco juice and licorice and make the ball as black as your hat. Why, just imagine Ty Cobb hitting the emery ball, the shine ball, the spit ball, the coffee ball. They used to chew coffee beans and spit it in the seams. Just imagine him hitting 367 lifetime for more than 20 years. I was at the diner a few years ago, about 1916. Leo Durocher spoke about the great Willie Mays and all. After he was finished, I got up and said that evidently Mr. Durocher never saw Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth or several others. Maybe Babe Ruth, I don't even know. Mr. Shoeless Joe Jackson, Mr. Harry Heilman, that is saying that Mays was the greatest baseball player who ever lived. He's a great fielder, and he can run at the bases pretty good, but he couldn't carry a bat of many a player, not a chance. And I talked about Ty Cobb hitting all those pitches, 367 lifetime. After I finished, one of those kids who's in the audience asked me, "Where do you think Cobb was hit today? What this white ball at all?" "Oh," I said, "about the same as Mays, maybe. 350, something like that." Why do you say Ty Cobb was so great?" The kid says to me, "If he could only hit 340 or so with his lively ball." "Well," I said, "you have to take into consideration the man is now 73 years old." Excuse me. Nowadays, the ball players don't want to talk baseball. They think the old-timer is living in the past. They'd rather talk about stocks, bonds, real estate in their commercials. They don't care to discuss baseball. Of course, when I was playing, there weren't much else to do. Wasn't any television or any of the malarkey. We'd sit around hotel lobbies and talk baseball. St. Louis, Missouri, there were a fountain of the old Buckingham Hotel. I love the Buckingham Hotel. And on hot nights, we'd sit around that fountain and talk about how to beat the guys the next day. Talked baseball all day and night. So if we did that, it must have been better baseball. Had to be. St. Louis, boy, did it ever get hot there. I know, right? Geez, you'd roast out on the field and the nights were just as bad. Not as bad now. Trying to sleep, and before you knew it, you were lying in a pool of water. Get up in the morning and grope your way out to the ballpark. Now everything's air conditioned. They're even air conditioning the stadiums. What's next? Yes, that's true. I started professional baseball in Japan. How did that happen? Well, you see, years ago, I think it was 1931, when I went to Japan on an All-American and All-Star team. Interesting country, interesting people. I liked them and they liked me. So the next year, I went back and coached at the 6 universities. I kept going back and finally went to work organizing a professional setup, like we have here. I'm the one who named the Tokyo Giants. I was on the New York Giants at the time. You see, I like people who you're not wasting your time trying to help. Teaching Americans and teaching Japanese is just like the difference between night and day. The American kid, he knows more than the coach, but not the Japanese kid. They want to learn. They don't think they know everything. Entirely opposite psychology. Think when we blow an automobile horn, we want the pedestrian to get out of the way, right? Horn blows, get out of the way. We're coming through. Honk, honk, get out of the way. Well, then they blow the horn, telling the pedestrian, "It's okay, we see you." Horn blows, we see you. Honk, honk, we see you. So when the horn blows, they don't jump or anything. They know, or they won't get hit. The drivers told them, MC, get it? Just the opposite from us. Jesus, so many of my friends in Japan got killed in the war, World War II. So many awful. Right after the war, I went back. I wanted to, because I knew if we were a baseball team over there, it would help me cement into friendship between them and us. When I arrived, it was terrible. The people were so depressed. When I had been in Japan before the war, their cry had been, and Banzi, But when I got there this time, they were not depressed. That when I ordered Banzi, they didn't respond at all. No reaction at all. Nothing. But when I left there a few months ago, all Japan was cheering and shouting Banzi again. So that's it. It's been a lot of fun beginning to end. As I told you, I played in my first professional game with Des Moines in the Western League in 1917. I was 20 years old. I played in my last game in 40 years later. Vancouver in the Pacific Coast League in 1956 was 59. Then I was the manager and put myself into pinch hit. Mostly a gag, But I had hit a ball between the outfielders and staggered all the way around onto third. A triple. 59 years old. How about that? Right there. 40 years too late. I learned the secret of successful hitting. It consists of two things. The first is cleaning, living, and the second is to bat against a pitcher who's laughing so hard he can hardly throw the ball.